so that they are very obvious.
Okay, we're gonna put names and dates on it too?
No, I don't, well, I mean, he did, the last one, he did bullet, you know, so. So let's get into the agenda today. First on the agenda, welcome. I know it was a long time coming, but welcome to Roseanne, and I'm so glad that you're here.
I'm glad to be here too.
Feels like, almost feels like a committee. So we will we're happy to have you on board. I did not hear from many public members, and obviously there are no public members here, so we don't have to deal with that. I know the last time we were here, we were talking about how do we reach people, how do we best, you know, get information out to the public. So before the pandemic, I believe in 2018 maybe, 2019, apparently Harwich sponsored a workshop called the Harwich Community Resilience Building Workshop.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
Yeah, and
I haven't heard of it.
I wasn't invited, so, but I do have their voluminous, you know, results, but you're online. We're not going to go over all of them, but there was a few things that I thought that might help guide our discussion here today. And those are a couple of graphs of, like, I want to sort of share with you. So there
And
was
who produced that again?
it was the Harwich Community Resilience Building Workshop. And
Harwich
if you Google it,
Community
Resilience Building Workshop.
So the idea is to strengthen buildings, to make them
Resilience.
comply with challenges coming from climate
Exactly.
change. Okay.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I've heard about this.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of towns did this. I don't think Harwich is the only one that did.
Right.
But, so, I know one of our,
I'm so sorry.
something that we talked about in another meeting was, you know, what do people want? Like, how do they access information? So here's a little graph of the people that, it says, what steps can the local government take to improve the resiliency of Harwich? And basically, again, you kind of need a magnifying glass to see this. Most people were concerned, I don't know if you can, about the immediate, like these bars over here are like improving warning systems. Like I think the tornado left a big impression on Harwich.
What year was that?
2019,
Yeah,
23rd of July, the day my husband died.
No.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
You
and
will
we
always
had a
remember.
tornado that came on our front yard and went straight
Oh my
into
God.
McCaskill's grass.
So you will always remember that day.
Well, I was supposed to go on a lobster cruise with my church.
So anyway, so they're very concerned about that, you know, making sure.
But we're being notified because last summer, I remember, you know, at 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, taking a nap, and the TV,
Yeah.
beep,
The warning
beep,
again.
beep,
Yeah.
go to your basement, a tornado, whatever.
Yeah,
So
I was,
we're getting that.
yeah, I was in a PT appointment, I think last spring or the spring before, and I had my cell phone with me, and all of a sudden there was this beep, beep, beep on my cell phone.
Right,
So
and,
I think
and
we-
very strident and
Yes.
alarming and terrifying.
Right, yeah, but the first time it went off in our house, we have a house alarm system,
Yeah.
and it was at night, and we heard this blood-curdling alarm, and of course, we kind of were came out of sleep, and we thought it was the smoke detectors, you know, like sometimes if a
Yeah.
spider gets in there or something like that. So we're running around trying to figure out what smoke detector's going on, and then we happened to look at the screen of our security system, and it was bright red, tornado, tornado, tornado. We had never seen that before.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Yeah.
so people were very concerned about that. They do want us to continue to seek funding for, and work with partners.
What does that mean?
Oh, I think they just want federal funding to make sure that we have enough money to do whatever we think we want to do. But again, this group of people, as you would expect really, people are more concerned about the immediate than they are about the long term. And so when this group got together, I think the people who organized this were thinking sort of like climate resilience, of which storms are a part.
Oh, yeah.
But this group tended to be much more concerned about storms right now. You know, what are we going to do about it right now, as opposed to the sort of, okay, so what do we do in the, like, the overall picture? So anyway, I'm just letting you know.
Yeah.
All right, which of the following actions have you taken to protect your property? And so most people do, like, have cut down trees, participated in what they call,
They cut down trees?
yeah, cut down branches and trees, you know, because how trees fell on people's houses.
Oh, my God.
Well, I have
So
had
tree
that
pruning,
experience.
was a big deal. And,
Trees that are potential hazards, that's what they're talking
yes, that, exactly, Charlie, exactly. You know, a lot of
about. If
people,
you're leaning over your house, cut the branch off so it doesn't fall on you.
exactly.
Yeah.
Be proactive.
Yeah, yeah.
I was proactive and trimmed them all.
Yeah. And it asked them
Terror.
how concerned are you about the possibility of natural hazards or a changing climate impacting Harwich? And so they said there was only 3% were not concerned.
You mean, for example, that no insurance company would insure property
I
there?
think it was a sort of a general thing, like anything to do
Because
with
that would depress
Yeah.
prices,
Yeah.
Values,
So-
and that would be catastrophic.
So one of the things that, you know, those of us in climate often think about is, does anybody care? You know, I mean, that is sort of like, sometimes you get that feeling that.
Yeah.
But what this group, anyway, most of them were either concerned or very concerned about.
Do you know how many people were in this group?
It looks
Does it
like,
say?
did it?
And were they town meeting
Yeah,
or community?
all people that live in Harwich. And I think they tried to get a mixed.
But I mean, municipality people.
Like,
Oh,
like,
oh, there
like
was-
people in town government.
No, it
Yeah.
wasn't, it was everybody. There were people,
So-
there were some
so the
government people.
community.
It was the community people.
Ah, that's
yeah. So they-
even better.
Yeah, so these,
Who organized that?
I think it was being done by, I want to say, I don't know actually, but my vague recollection is that these were being done by Barnstable County, the Cape Cod Commission.
Oh, I was
Yeah.
gonna say, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Did you read the APCC Gottlieb's last
The one
newsletter? Yeah, he says that we are great at things like this and very poor implementation
range.
and no
Absolutely.
follow-up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I
And
agree
this is evidence of that.
100%.
Yeah,
Um,
because we're still vulnerable. What's
Very
changed?
vulnerable,
Very
It's changed.
vulnerable.
Yeah.
very
But you
vulnerable.
know, I have to tell you something very interesting because there was, the data the Cape Cod Commission has developed, found a Cape Cod Commission about climate change, data on energy use throughout Cape Cod available, blah, blah, blah. There was nothing from Harwich. There were, I think all the towns were represented, and there was nothing,
I'll have to look. I'm pretty sure Harvard's is in there.
well,
But I'll look.
I mean, I
will look,
went
yeah.
to this
Yeah.
website, I kind of paged down and
Yeah.
said, oh, this is interesting, and I found out Ed McManus is involved with that,
Mhm.
but I did not see
Well,
Harwich.
I'm sort of getting ahead of myself, but I do have a meeting with Joe Powers next week on Tuesday.
Ooh.
And I'm gonna
To follow up
Yeah,
on
to
the.
follow up on everything, you know, like
Yeah,
what
the
is
grant for
happening?
EV
Yeah.
charging.
Yeah, nothing's been
station.
done about that, I know for that for sure. They've
But
not
why
mentioned it,
not?
they've not talked about it,
And why not?
I don't know. That's why I have a meeting, yeah.
Good, because I
And
mean,
you will let us know,
Oh, yeah.
do you have an agenda for?
I'm gonna keep it friendly. I told him two big issues for me is the charging stations, electric cars, and are we or are we not? Literally, it's not really up to us. Going to pursue that. If so, how and when? If
Right.
not, why?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then the other thing is just a check-in on the green communities, you know, like,
Yeah.
that's an ongoing thing. And who's the town person who's in charge of that? Because you have to
Right.
upload data to a state database.
Yeah,
and
you-
it's an ongoing thing.
You have to keep working at it in order
Right,
to
right.
preserve that privilege.
Exactly, or else you get kicked off. So anyway, let's see if there's any more here. All right, these were the demographics of the people. 39% were year-round, 7% were part-time. 12% were employed in Harwich, and some business owners. So I mean, that was sort of like the. So you were asking who these people were. It was a mix. So as far as like what they're concerned about,
Yeah.
hurricanes, nor'easters, severe weather, but 34% of them did mention sea level rise, coastal erosion, and flooding.
All the important things.
Yeah,
They're all
did.
there.
They were all there. People are concerned about them, but I think you hit the nail on the head when you said, because I think there's a reason why nothing ever happens. Is because it is such a daunting prospect. And so we know that the people in Harwich think about it, care about it, but probably, just like everybody else, don't really have a clue as to what
to do.
What would
Well,
you do?
this climate change in New England site name that you gave us,
Yeah.
I explored a little bit, and it talks about don't be discouraged.
Yeah. And a lot of the people in that line.
What you can do, I didn't study the whole thing, but one of the main things is to get in touch with your government people. Use your voice, Climate Crisis 101, write a letter to the editor. I mean, I printed a little bit, but
So I think
6 do's and don'ts for climate activism.
I think that the best way to get your local politicians on board is to keep the topic in front of the constituency all the time. Not hit them over the head with it or anything like that. So,
But also the monetary factor, because they are very sensitive to the monetary factor.
our selectmen, everything is about money. You
Yeah.
know, they don't really want to talk to you, because I've found this myself with, you know, it took 2 times to get the green community, 2 campaigns to get the green communities through, because they felt that it didn't give them enough money. You know, it wasn't enough. And they were really, the first time, they were very concerned about the stretch code, and they thought that would hurt business and that type of thing. They got over that, and, you know, and I'm glad. And yes, Charlie.
You know, I lived in Longboat Key in Florida for 10 or 12 years, and I was involved with redesigning the whole community to build it up on stilts. I still see the town building new homes or rebuilding new homes right along the coastline.
Oh, Charlie, I spent 6 weeks on Longboat Key. It is a disaster waiting to happen.
But I'm talking to yes, but I'm talking about building new houses or reconstructing houses up on stilts or
Yep.
something. That's kind of a thing that they need to be proactive in, changing the building code to allow anybody that's in the immediate floodplain to not rebuild a house the same exact configuration, but to build it up like 10 or 12 feet above the expected flood levels.
Right, and they also talked about rezoning coastal areas so that more of it becomes unbuildable, you know, so that.
That's another way to do it, yes.
Yeah.
But those are proactive things that they can do without spending any money. It's only for the future. So if anybody wants to tear down a place, they have to rebuild it so that it withstands a storm surge.
Yeah, well, I think they did that. There's a house right on Red River Beach. I mean, literally on the beach. And they made them put it up on stilts.
Good.
So, I mean.
Is it part of the code now? Do you know that?
I don't know. I don't know. So looking at the code, that's something else I can talk to Joe about.
Yes, that's super important.
Thanks, Charlie. Well, I'll bring that up when I have my meeting.
So what was the criteria, Charlie, to lift houses into stilts or not?
Well, we were all in the FEMA flood zone.
Oh,
We
I,
had to pay flood insurance down there. And I had an entire community that was built in the late 50s. And it was all single little cottages. And we couldn't come up with a plan to raise all 212 of them up. So we decided that if we got flooded out, we would build 11 buildings. And they would be with elevators. The parking would be on the lower level, and there would be 2 stories, and everybody would have a water view. That was the plan. We spent $8,000 with an architect to redesign the whole community when they get flooded out. But so we have a plan that got approved by the town of Longboat Key. So how we're going to rebuild it? This is proactive planning. That's what I'm talking about.
Right.
Of
And
course.
it wouldn't look the same for the Cape maybe, but the same principle applies. You know, you've got to
Absolutely.
look at what you've got.
But what do you do about the people who are not year-round residents, who have these very expensive homes, and some of them may even be, you know, very close to the water?
They're all self-insured, so they don't care. that's the issue.
When you
that
say self-insured, that if anything happens, that
they pay for it. They'll just pay for it. You know, they are not looking to get insurance, so
Yeah, that's the
they
key.
don't have to. I mean, you know, so
Yeah.
it's,
So
unless you're
they're taking themselves out of the equation.
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, but
exactly.
they are 1%?
Yeah, particularly for Harwich. I mean, if you're talking Chatham, you might be talking a few.
About 3, 5.
Yeah. But for us, I don't think it's.
Yeah.
It's not
We're
that
talking
big a
about a lot of those, but they do tend to be the ones closest to the water.
Yeah.
You know, so, yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, you'd have to look at, and I know the EPA came out with new flood zones a few years back, and a lot of people were surprised to find themselves, you know, in a flood zone. And I know my mom, you know, lost her insurance. She's a mile away from the beach, but they called her a flood zone, and she had to scramble to get, you know, insurance for her house, and she went on the FAIR plan. I mean, so I think it tends to, yes, it's good to be aware of the hazards, but at the same time, you've got to prepare to help people address those hazards. You know?
So what can we, as this committee,
Right, we're not,
do?
yeah.
Where do we intersect?
So
with
this
the
is
bigger picture?
this is number 4 on our discussion list here. And I think the only thing that we can do right now is just to keep the concepts in front of people. So we talked about this before, about doing like a Channel 18 discussion.
Mhm.
I don't know how many people watch Channel 18, but it would be something.
Yeah, and we actually, our group,
Yeah.
the Climate Action Network, did a very small thing with China Mellon, who's very good.
Yeah. So, you know, some of the things that we could do, and some of these could be on Channel 18, but some of them could be like setting up a table at the Harwich Community Center. So how to read your electric bill. I mean, I could imagine just somebody sitting at a table with with some information, and people could ask, you know, what does this mean? What does that mean? And why am I paying this? Why am I paying that? You know.
Would you, and who would you have telling them? Who would you have?
Well, it could be one of us.
Well, I live in senior housing, so I don't get an electric bill.
Right,
Good for
right.
you.
Good for you, yeah.
Well, I know, but, you know, it doesn't mean that the property management company couldn't be doing a better job. Okay,
Right,
but I
right.
can't get into that.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And actually, I was able to arrange for Cape Light Compact to recontact our property manager.
Good.
To do an energy assessment per Maggie Downey's presentation.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, but
yeah, I mean, it could be me, it could be anybody. And then and we also talked about it being on Channel 18, that we could develop a list of questions so that we could be interviewed. You know, we would know the questions ahead of time, but
right,
there could
and
be
Jen
some.
is very good at that.
Yeah, we could be, you know, so the questions are, how do you read your electric bill? How do we know that your electricity is green? You know, because Cape Light Compact, all of our electricity
And
is
for
green.
example,
Yeah.
what to do if you are very vulnerable? In other words, proximity to the ocean. Maybe some people don't know.
Yeah,
I have
yeah.
a friend who lives very close to Red River,
Yes.
and I wonder if she knows anything.
Yeah.
She probably doesn't.
Right. And,
I'll
you
ask
know,
her.
Yeah.
Now I'm thinking, you should ask her.
Been, you know, a discussion on climate change in New England, you know, going back to that website, and also organizations that people can contact. It always surprises me how many people do not know that they can contact Cape Light Compact and get a lot of questions answered.
Yeah.
I'm always amazed. You know, they've been around for 20 years. You would think, you know, that people would be aware, but they're not always. A lot of people still don't fully understand who they're paying for their electricity. Like if you get contacted by somebody and tell you, oh, we have this great deal, just switch over. Maggie, that office, Cape Light Compact office, spends a lot of time trying to get people disentangled from these not so scrupulous electrical suppliers. You know.
What is the opposite of scrupulous? Scrupulous.
Scruple.
Unscrupulous. Unscrupulous.
Yeah.
What kind of thing can they do to you?
Well, we are all women of a certain age, but what I'm saying, but sometimes the elderly get confused, and so like let's suppose XYZ electric company. So I call you up. And I say, oh, Jackie, you're paying way too much for electricity. We have a deal, you know, like 10 cents a kilowatt hour, you know, just sign. And so you say, oh, that sounds cheaper, you know, and so you give them your electric, your number off your electric bill, and they switch you to their company. And for, you know, and you think you're getting this cheap electricity, well, you probably do for a month or two, and then it goes way above what Cape Light Compact is going to charge. So in the end, you're like paying too much for electricity. But unless you were reading your electric bill every month and seeing what was happening, you would be clueless.
Yeah, that brings to mind that I don't understand why electricity went up 30.2% last December.
If you, it always goes up in the winter. Always, always, always.
But
right?
not for good?
No, it'll go down again in June. So the 6 months starting in June, June to like November, December, something like that, is always going to be lower than the other.
So it goes
It's heating for us, yeah,
up
because we have
in
so many
December?
gas-fired electric plants. And so the gas company is competing with the heating world for that gas, and of course the people who produce gas take advantage of that by bumping up the prices.
Right, and what Cape Light Compact is trying to do is to get people to switch over to electric.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So let me just back up a second. All these things that we've been talking about, these are things that you want to bring to the public's attention. I know Dinah Mellon. Okay, I got things started when we did our little dog and pony show. I would be glad to contact her.
Perfect. Yeah, contact her.
Yeah.
Just, you can show her our, excuse,
Dinah Mellon, Mellin. She does programs for Channel 18. She's a very skilled interviewer. The Harwich, D-I-N-A-H, N-A-H, Dinah. M-E-L-L-I-N, Mellon. Okay, and she does programs for Channel 18. And we can send her a list of questions, and she's a very skilled interviewer.
So you talk to her and show her some of our ideas. She may actually have some ideas too, you know, as to what. So that would be a great start on that.
But what I don't understand is why Cape Light Compact, or the board of the Cape Light Compact, decided that you had to go up 30.2%. That's a lot.
We don't decide. All of those increases are highly regulated, as you can imagine,
By whom?
DPU,
Okay.
Public Utilities. So all of our, whatever we do has to be approved by the DPU before we can institute. So here's what's happening. Several things happen. Number one, we're in wintertime, so we knew it was going to go up anyway. The state of Massachusetts passed the climate change bill. All right, so now the state is pushing some of that responsibility back out to the local providers, like Cape Light Compact. There are organizations like Cape Light Compact all across the state. All right, we're not the only ones. We're the first, but we're not the only ones.
And where is Eversource?
Eversource is in the mix, all right? And if you looked at Eversource's prices, they went up too.
So I know, same,
Yeah,
exactly the
yeah.
same.
And so here's what happens. So the state says, okay, you guys, you providers, like Cape Light Compact, it's your job to get much more aggressive with getting people to convert to heat pumps, weatherization, blah, blah, blah. And so you gotta do more. And so none of that's free. And so if you look on your bill, you're paying every month into a fund which Cape Light Compact turns around and puts back out as.
Right. But there are also offsets, and there are income-based perks, from Maggie's presentation. Okay, so that it's not a done deal like, oh, I'm gonna have to pay so much more.
Yeah, I mean, if you are truly income eligible, there are programs for income eligible where you budget your electricity over the whole year,
And there's interest-free loans. I mean, there's a
yeah.
And I just want to tell you, Valerie, that did you attend Maggie's
The
program?
Zoom meeting?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. I
Okay,
listened to it.
so we're gonna get recordings, and I'd be glad if there's a way to send it to you. Just so
Oh,
that
I'm
you-
on the board, so.
Oh, I forgot that. Yes. I knew that. Yeah.
So I
preaching to the choir.
Yeah, so I know what we're doing, and we were very concerned about having to do it, but it was something that had to be done. Eversource had to do it too, to accommodate the new mandate from the state, like you have to do these things, and it's all climate-based, where the state's trying to get to what, by 2050, like 0 carbon or something. I mean,
Net zero.
Yeah, net zero. So it's a pretty aggressive goal, and so this is, and I think people probably do have questions.
It's extremely nebulous. Extremely nebulous, because I have lived in many countries in the world.
Right.
Never had I faced such. That's why how to read your electric bill. Nebulous.
Well, I think what happened about 30 years ago maybe more, I can't remember, maybe you do, Charlie. The utilities were regulated. I mean, like if you were the electric company or the telephone company or that type of thing, you were government regulated, you know.
Valerie,
And then they had this big,
Valerie,
yeah?
30 or 40 years ago, the power companies generated their own power, they owned their own.
Yes,
generating
yes.
facilities. What happened after that is they diverged all this, and so they have independent generating companies. That's what's caused all the competition. I used to live in upstate New York, and they used to have Niagara Mohawk was the power company. They had all the generating stations. Now they got a whole bunch of companies up there. And so if you're in upstate New York, you got about 10 companies to pick from because Niagara Mohawk doesn't do their own generating. All they do is provide the cables and
Distribution.
Right. Just like Eversource here. Yeah, Eversource does not make electricity.
It used to be just one company you dealt with, and now it's a whole multiplicity of companies because they're trying to make it more competitive, I
Right,
guess.
and so they deregulated, so they forced these conglomerates, like Con Edison and all, they forced them to divest. So you either made electricity or you distributed electricity. You didn't do both, you know, so that they could have more competitive markets. So,
Yeah, and I sell my
Rex,
my credit from my
Right.
roof, whatever I don't use, I sell it.
yeah,
And it could be Eversource who buys it.
yeah,
And if I don't use all that I produce in a certain lapse of time, Eversource pockets it.
yeah. Now, the other thing you might want to look into is, do you have relatives that live in our area, or?
I give them my extra also.
Yeah,
I
because
do.
you can give
Yeah.
it to another
I do,
person.
I
you
do.
know. So
I do
yeah.
give it.
Yeah. So
I'm so fascinated by this. I have nothing to do with it at all where I live,
right.
but I
But
know.
you're lucky, it's hell. You have to
Well-
be on top, you have to know
Well, I
what,
mean, and
because you have to make a lot of decisions
Yeah.
that affect your pocket.
Oh, I know. I mean, I've lived in rentals on the Cape and off Cape. And I had to, at one point I had to deal with GPU about a discrepancy in where my utility was. And it was, I actually had to go to my state rep.
Yeah. Well, I think that the bottom line is, as long as you stick with Cape Light Compact
Yeah.
and don't like get lured into going with another company. Cape Light Compact is nonprofit. It's all the towns of the Cape banding together to try to get the best deal for Cape Cod that they can. You know.
And how many people do you think understand that and know that?
I have no idea. Probably not very many. You know.
Well,
And that's
1%.
what,
1%.
Yes, Charlie.
Advertise that fact that we fully support Cable Light Compact, and you really shouldn't have any other power producer, because that's the best thing for the environment and for the lowest competitive cost. And how do we do that without becoming a proxy for them or something like that?
Well, I think one of the things that might be a good topic of discussion, or at least a question for our interview, should that happen, is to talk about the synergy of the organizations on the Cape that are all working for the same goal. It could be Cape Light Compact, it could be APCC, it could be the various climate action groups at each of the towns,
the commission.
the commission.
Now, where does Cape Light Compact get his electricity? Next Era?
Next Era right now, yeah.
Yeah. Eversource also. Next Era.
Next Era.
Yeah.
No, Next Era makes, they produce it, so, you know.
Yeah,
and
well,
so
but
far,
it's
and what
clean
Cape Light-
energy.
Yeah. What Cape Light Compact does every 6 months is they go out to bid. You know, they know they have, so they take all of our electricity use on the Cape and they aggregate it,
Wow.
you know, and so they know that they have X number of megawatts of electricity that they can offer to a producer. So let's suppose you produce electricity, you produce electricity. So I say, I have, you know, this pot of customers.
Right.
What can you do for me? You know, like we're looking for the best deal we can get for this group
So
of.
is there a bidding war?
Yes, yes. producers do bid. They come to Cape Light Compact and, they say, they give them their.
Yeah, because my extra kilowatts, are auctioned. So I want the best.
Who auctions that?
There are companies that do that.
So, in the end, Cape Light Compact has to sit down and do a cost-benefit analysis for each of the bids that they get to make sure that, number one, they're getting a good price, but number two, the people on the Cape have indicated, the towns have indicated, that it's not just the money they're concerned with, they want cleaner energy. And so now, back when Cape Light Compact was first formed, it wasn't such a big deal, they always went for the lowest price. But now that people have become much more aware of how electricity is made, they're much more discerning about how they want their electricity.
I'm glad to hear that, because that's not the case, with plastic bottles, food packaging.
Well, that'll come, but I was very involved with the Booker nuclear plant. And I can't remember all the details, but I know that one of the issues was, well, if you close Pilgrim, where are we going to get our electricity from? And it turned out that Pilgrim's been closed how many years now?
And even before they closed,
Oh, yeah.
they were offline more than they were online
Oh,
because
yeah.
they had so many problems.
Yeah.
So anyway, so when
Yeah.
we're looking at the cost of electricity, it's not just what you're paying per kilowatt, it's really where did it come from, how was it produced, is the company an ethical company, so there's a lot that goes into it. Eversource has to do the same thing. They are also looking for bids and that type of thing. And we're almost always very close to Com Electric when it comes to pricing. Every once in a while, they may be a couple cents lower than but we're always.
Where is N-Star now?
Oh, God.
It used to be Eversource.
Is it?
Oh, is it? Yeah. Well, no, I think it's Eversource now because I pay.
Eversource now, but before it was N-Star.
N-Star,
So
right.
where is N-Star
They
now?
probably- Well, I think N-Star still does gas, don't they? Somewhere? Yeah, I think they still do gas, and they
Yeah.
probably still do electricity somewhere. I mean, it's
I
just not in
dealt
our
with-
region.
Yeah, I dealt with National Grid
Yeah.
and Star. Those are the two, when I lived in Maryland. And
So anyway, I think, and companies come and go. I mean, they get gobbled up by.
But I'm sitting here and I'm already learning, and I'm pretty savvy. And imagine there are people out there, particularly homeowners,
Of course.
and particularly people who just, I can write a check, I have lots of money, I don't care. Well, your money may go belly up, especially with gas prices and the stock market and everything else. So it's kind of teaching people to be savvy consumers.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be a careful. I don't think it's as onerous as tracking things. I think it's just like when you go to the store, you check prices, right? I mean, I guess if money were no object, you wouldn't. I mean, you just grab what you want and.
When I saw the rise 30.2 and the cost of living increased 6.7, I said, what?
Yeah.
What's going on?
So
That was my reasoning,
Yes,
and
yeah.
it took me a lot of questions to start understanding.
Yeah, and so it's because of the climate action legislation that the state instituted has sort of like trickled down to us. So I think if we can get your friend here to agree to interview us, and if we could come up with her advice, some questions.
She's fine with that.
Yeah.
Because I think that's what, she really asked us what we wanted to cover when we did that program with, I think, Susan and
Robin.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that would be a great first start for us.
Oh, yeah.
Is
Who
to,
would she interview?
Valerie, of course.
Oh, Val,
well, there could be more than one person there, but
Not more than two.
not more than two, yeah.
Yeah.
But I'd certainly, be willing to do that. I've been interviewed, I I don't know by her, but I've been interviewed there before.
Who was the guy before, there was a guy who she interviewed, or somebody on Channel 18 interviewed. I forget. Yeah, but there was a guy that was interviewed from this committee.
All right, great. So I think that at least we have one action thing to do. We are going to try to get our interview on Channel 18. We can still think about these other things. And maybe when you're home, think about ways of reaching people in Harwich. We've got the Channel 18, we're going to move on that. But
And what about how to tap into these people?
yeah, I don't know where they are.
These people.
Valerie,
Yeah,
and maybe before you go with this interview, you ought to have a list of subject matter.
we are, yeah.
And then come up with the answers ahead of time, so you're not sputtering around.
Yes.
the answers.
Yeah, no, we're going to make sure she asks us questions that we gave her.
That we know the answers to.
Yes.
Okay,
Whom are you
all right.
talking about, Julie?
No, Dinah Mellon.
Yeah, we're gonna make
Oh,
sure
okay,
that-
okay.
I just want to mention something, and it may or may not feed into anything that we do, but the Harwich Climate Action Network is working on probably a webinar on local pond health. Okay, and we have people lined up, we just have to get somebody to do the 10 piece a day. I don't know how it's going to be broadcast, and that might be a source of people who are interested in the environment and
Yeah,
climate. Because it's all, please.
Terrific. Terrific. You have too much to contribute.
It's okay, Charlie, Valerie just went to get a drink of water,
Oh,
okay?
okay. I wonder why it's all quiet there.
Yeah, Jacqueline and I are communicating by sign language.
I can't see what you're doing now.
You don't want to know.
I have the worst allergies I've ever had. I even took a COVID test this morning because
Yeah, well, I have year-round allergies, but this is one of my bad times, and I've already started to use I use a nasal spray.
yes, so whenever, like if the climate action people do something, then, yeah, it would be, if we, let's suppose the pond thing happens first before our interview, then
Right.
you definitely could promote the interview on Channel 18,
Bring it up.
or vice versa,
Yeah, because there's a lot, I'm sure there's overlap.
Mhm.
Oh, yes.
We don't want to duplicate.
There's a lot of overlap.
Right,
Valerie,
right.
maybe Roseanne could act as a liaison between the two committees since she's on both.
Well, both Jackie and Roseanne are on the same committee, yeah.
Yeah, we'll make sure that there's
Yeah.
nothing falls through the cracks.
Now, the other
no.
thing that we might do together would maybe, webinars are good, but now that people are kind of getting out again, maybe do like a little speaker series, with some of these topics that we've been,
Mhm.
maybe hosting.
And more things that are going to pop up.
What I know is that the library, staff, Emily Mylan in particular, is very, very interested. I've touched base with her about, supporting any kind of educational effort.
But I'm coming back to the people who produced this report.
This is
Who are
several
those
years
people?
old now. I mean, it's like 3-4 years old now.
Yeah, it was in 2018.
18 or 19.
But
It's
who
like
are
I
those
don't know
people?
about it.
I'm pretty sure it was the
2020,
2020.
Harwich Community Resilience Building Workshop.
2020, yeah.
What to do in a weather disaster. These are just notes.
Yeah, and I think it was Cape Cod Commission that sponsored it, or at least
Very
got
well
it
could be.
going. So
Yeah.
Because you said there were Harwich community people.
yes, and I think they did something like this in other towns but for that
Yes.
town. They because they were in the midst. The Cape Cod Commission was in the midst of putting together their big climate plan, like when
Right.
you go to Cape Cod Commission now, you can look at that. I think these were some of the earlier steps that they took
Okay.
for that.
But you know something, and I don't want to digress too much, but I remember that I attended some kind of virtual program that included the Cape Cod Commission. And there were some slides, and there were towns listed, and Harwich was not listed. And I remember I either wrote to Christy or her assistant, Erin, saying, was that an omission, you know, deliberate?
Accidental?
And she said that we had not requested or applied for or in some way connected with what was being offered. I think I may still have my notes.
Yeah, I mean, I've been on this committee for like 20 years. So oftentimes we are forgotten. And when something like that comes up, you know, if nobody at the town level thinks of us, the information never gets forward. I mean, I'm not sure that this is how, I don't know if this is the case here,
Yeah.
but it can be the case that, you
But I
know.
remember specifically looking at the town, and every town was listed but Harwich. And I was like, well, did you forget about us? Yeah, no, and
Yeah.
I think that maybe it's just something about the way the town operates
Yeah.
that is a little idiosyncratic and maybe doesn't open to.
So another thing I'm gonna ask Joe when I see him is to make sure that we get forwarded anything like that. If they're looking for, all climate and energy programs gets forwarded to us. you know,
Yeah.
Or we would get included, you know.
Yeah, and I
Absolutely,
think the other-
absolutely.
Mallory,
Pardon?
Joe who?
Powers.
The town administrator.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think the other people to maybe think about including in our communication are Elizabeth Harder,
Who's
who's,
that?
she is our representative to the Assembly of Delegates.
That's changed a bunch of, wait, wasn't Ed that for a
Yeah,
while?
but Elizabeth, I think she's in her second term.
Oh, okay. What's her
Okay,
name?
Elizabeth Harder, Harder. She's a powerhouse.
And she's rep to the,
Assembly of Delegates. Yeah. And the other group is the, not the commission, the county commissioners. There are three,
yep.
okay, Ron Bergstrom, Sheila
He's a
Lyons,
piece of work.
Sheila Lyons, who is fabuloso,
Yeah.
and Mark Forrest, who is fabuloso.
Good.
Yeah.
2 out of 3 ain't bad.
I have a question that has nothing to do with what we're talking about, so you tell me when I can go ahead.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to mention that
Yeah.
because I think it's important
Yeah.
so that we aren't isolated from
Right.
things that are happening on a larger
Right.
scale.
Right.
Absolutely.
And there are towns like Falmouth, Yarmouth, Wellfleet that are light years ahead of us.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
light
yes,
years ahead of
yes,
us.
yes, yes.
As far as.
But a lot of it is that there are people in those towns who, there's Judith Holt, who's, I think she's Falmouth or Sandwich, I don't know, but she's a driving force in her town. Yeah.
Yeah, there's always,
I think she must
like
be
the energy
Sandwich.
committee in Yarmouth has been like 15 people. You
Yeah.
know, and so they do amazing things because they have a lot of people who have put a lot of work in.
Well, and
Yeah.
Chatham too.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
one of the questions I had. Do we work at our Harwich Energy Committee, and do we interact with other energy committees?
Oh, yeah,
To
absolutely.
learn from them,
Yep.
to
Yeah.
cooperate, and,
Well, we can't, there's not a lot we can do.
but we can
Because
learn.
we're a town committee, we're town appointed, town sponsored, and can really only do Harwich things, you know, I mean.
But we can learn.
But we can learn, I've been to the Yarmouth one many times, to listen and to, you know, to see what's going on there. Dick Elkin in Wellfleet, you know, I've spoken to him many times.
You probably met Susan Starkey.
probably, but I don't
Yeah, she's
remember.
she's
Yeah.
Dartmouth, and she's
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
co-leads the Faith Communities Environmental Network.
Yes, yeah, I'm on that too, just recent.
The
But
other,
anyway, so
Yeah.
yes,
the other question
Yeah.
I had was, the green community, designation
mhm.
will last until 23, right?
I believe, I'd have to go back
Okay.
and look at my notes.
Now, the solar panels that were installed at the dam were done during. Prior.
Yeah, so we don't
Right.
get credit for that.
We don't get credit for that. Now, do you recall how many panels were installed?
You can go online and, it'll tell you all that information, you know, like how many megawatts it produces and how much money
Every
we
time you go to the
made.
dump, there's a big sign there.
Yeah, yeah, you can, and I think
A
that.
big sign and I will get the number of panels?
Or you can go
I forget the
to,
number of megawatts.
yeah, that was a, CVEC project, and so if you go to the CVEC website, and you click on Harwich, you can get some of the details.
Can you spell that?
CVEC, it's the
CV,
Electric Cooperative.
CV, I have difficulty.
CVEC.
CVEC.
Yeah,
Is that
it's
Ms. Orgo?
It's-
she's retired. They have a new person there.
Oh,
Name I can't remember.
wow.
Well, I wanted to suggest that, or ask rather, who assigns land to do projects like installing solar panels and
Well-
making money for the town?
Well, the town already owned the dump, so.
Yeah, well,
That-
of
that-
course, that's
yeah.
obvious, but that's
Then,
exactly my
For the
point.
green communities, we had to set aside a chunk of property specifically for, green energy,
Mhm.
and that's also on Queen Anne. Again, I don't have the notes in front of me, but you could go online probably and see the parcel that was set aside. It was,
Jacqueline, you just don't want to cut down a whole bunch of trees, put someone to it, because you want to have a vacant lot to do it, because
Please.
otherwise you.
Of course,
yeah.
of
So
course.
so Harwich, the town of Harwich,
Yeah.
already has a I think it's like 6 acres or something like that, another piece of land that is designated for
Already.
already. I
And
mean,
who,
and that was,
who did that? And
that
who
was
is-
part of the requirements for becoming a green community.
So solar panels should go there.
It could be solar panels, it could be a factory that makes solar panels, it could, it could be a wind
Yeah, but
turbine.
my thinking is
Yeah.
making money for the town.
Right, so, but here's the thing. The electric company is not obligated to, particularly now, to pay random towns for excess electricity. So
I don't get
the town is only allowed to make as much electricity as they use. The town is not allowed to become an electricity producer for sale. That is regulated by the Department of Public, Utilities. So
What a
we-
scandal.
we can't do that. It's against the law to do that. So what would,
So my situation, for example, that my extra kilowatts, I can sell them in an auction, the town cannot do
no,
that.
Now,
Oh.
is there also going to be a solar array on high school?
Yes, I think they're working on that.
And there was supposed to be one at the Cranberry Valley Golf
I
Course.
think they're working on that. Again, if you go to the CVEC website and you click on Harwich, it gives you a status update on all of those
That's great to know.
projects.
That's great to know.
And how, well, I'll figure it out.
Yeah. So the town is we pretty much make as much electricity as we use, between the dump and some of the other, like the solar panels at the police station and other, like, the other projects. So we're kind of maxed out on what the town can do. So what I think would be a better use of that property, and again, I've asked, I think CVEC has looked into it, it is something called community solar.
Yeah. Doesn't Brewster have something like that?
I know Falmouth does.
What about, what,
So community solar is, let's suppose I want to build a solar, somebody's trying to come in here. Let's suppose I want to build a solar array. You still there, Charlie?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay, good. Let's suppose I want to, I come to Harwich and say, I'm a company, I'm going to build a solar array and I'm going to sell the electricity. And so what I do is you give me permission to build, like the town does not pay for the solar panel. I'm paying for the solar panels. So I developed that piece of land, I put the solar panels there, and now I have to sell the electricity. Now, to be honest with you, as an investor, I don't really care about the electricity. I want the RECs, I want the tax rebates, and I want all those perks. The electricity is just, I don't really care. So what I do is I sell the electricity to people in the town for pretty cheap. And so you could sign up, like you live, your electricity included, but let's suppose you lived in a rental.
Yeah, which I did.
You know, or in a condo, where you can't put up solar panels. Right? You're still paying an electric bill, but you can't put up solar panels.
You cannot.
You cannot, because you live in a condo, you know? So you could sign up for community solar and you could buy electricity from this and get a reduction in your bill, because you're buying some of your electricity from this.
How does the actual electricity get to the?
See, this is where people get confused.
I know, I do.
This is super confusing.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to articulate it.
Because I had asked and I talked to Margaret Song,
Yeah.
and I was supposed to call her and I never did. I said, you know, I live in subsidized housing. How can we access solar?
Community solar, if your house, like who runs your housing project?
The company is off Cape, it's called Hal Keen Management.
All right, so I would be interested to know, since your where you live is here in Harwich, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're probably Cape Light Compact customers. I would be interested to know if they're getting if they're paying Cape Light Compact or if they're paying Eversource, or where their electric bill comes from, because somebody pays the electricity.
Right,
you
and
know.
somebody from Cape Light Compact is going to be contacting our manager.
Right.
Because I had asked
So
Maggie about that.
if they're a Cape Light Compact customer, then you're already getting Cape Light Compact, you know, green electricity. I mean, it's all green now, you know.
Okay, so it doesn't have to be on site.
Oh, no. Here's the problem, and this is so
I think a
difficult
lot of us can't
for
envision.
people to
Yeah.
envision.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's suppose over here I have a solar panel. Let's say this big farm, you know, produces
And
tons.
you're talking about individuals, or are you talking about the town?
Anybody.
I mean, the municipality.
Anybody, all right? But here's what you have to understand. Electrons don't care where they go.
Of course. It's like water.
Yeah, so here we have electricity being produced by solar panels.
Mm-hmm.
So here's your house or the town.
Yeah.
And so you are not connected to the solar panels. You're connected to the grid.
Okay. That's
So-
all you need to say.
Yeah.
Got it. Got it.
So these solar panels go into the grid.
Right.
The coal-fired plant goes into the grid. The nuclear plant goes into the grid.
And this draws on the grid, not on the.
Right,
on
and
the
then
computers.
eventually, all of those electrons get mixed together
Mm-hmm.
and go out to you.
Okay.
And
Right.
some people have the solar panels and have a battery and
And-
keep their.
Exactly, and so if you wanted to do that, you would have to sever your ties with the grid.
Mhm.
And you would be off the grid, as they say.
Literally.
Um,
Okay, got it.
So how do we know, so how can Cape Light Compact say that we're green? Because all the electrons are getting
But-
mixed in the middle.
Can you sketch the situation where my thinking that the town, when I say the town, I mean the municipality.
They're tied to the grid. So all the electricity.
But my idea, I would like the town to be able to make money out of solar.
They are, because the town, for the panels that we already have, the farm that we already
But we would
have,
like to repeat that
you
somewhere else.
can't, it's illegal.
You cannot.
You cannot.
We're maxed out.
We're maxed out, because if we wanted to do anything else,
Mhm.
we would have to go to the state, and we would have to try to become our own electrical manufacturing company. You know what I'm saying? That we would have to, and then we would be subject to all the rules and regulations of anybody who makes electricity.
Right.
Like NextEra, we'd be our own NextEra.
Right.
Have towns done that? Absolutely. Hull, City of Hull,
Mm-hmm.
they have their own municipal,
Where is that?
they're
city?
right outside of Boston.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
between Boston and the Cape.
Yeah, another
Social.
town,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
But it's possible. They did it. They make all their own electricity. And they control everything. They control the they make it, they distribute it, they control it all.
Yeah.
But that's kind of an unusual situation.
How do you spell the name of that town?
Hull. They put up a bunch of wind turbines. I mean, they're
Yeah, yeah.
so this is why people get confused, is because everything mixes in the grid. So electron coming into your house, you really don't have a clue where it came from. I mean, it could have been from a solar panel, but it could just as easily have been from a gas-powered plant or
course.
whatever.
Of course.
Now, so how do we know it's green? Like how can Cape Light Compact tell us that it's green? Because what NextEra does is they buy RECs, renewable energy credits.
That's what I get.
Yes, and so you're
RECs.
producing,
Yeah, I have the perks still.
and I have them too.
Mhm.
And so a company like NextEra
Mhm.
buys as many of these RECs as possible
Mhm.
to add to their portfolio, and those RECs support the building and the maintenance and the running of renewable energy projects. That's where the money comes from to make these projects. Without the RECs, you wouldn't have new solar farms going up, and so it supports it. It's not about the electrons, it's about the money and the support of building new renewable energy projects. You gotta forget the electrons. So anyway, so I think,
Wow. Boy, I feel so smart.
so the one thing I'd like to do before we stop, because I do have to turn these suckers in, is if the minutes from January 5th, and thank you, Charlie, you did a great job. Did anybody find any glaring
No,
mistakes or anything that?
no.
So can I have a vote, all in favor of accepting the minutes as is, say aye.
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 Any opposed? No. Okay, so I have to, not only, in the old days, all we had to do was turn these into the office. Now I have to turn a hard copy in and I have to email it. I have to do two things instead of one.
Silly.
It's silly.
And have you asked why?
Yeah.
It sounds bureaucratic.
It is.
Valerie,
Yes, Charlie?
I think the last sentence there, I said our next meeting will be on March 3rd.
Oh, I'll fix that, Charlie. Thank you for pointing that out. I'll fix it and then I will,
By the way, it was precious for me that you postponed this meeting because I was out.
good, good. I'm
After
glad
my,
that,
so it was wishful thinking
I'm
on my
not-
part.
I'm not 100% sure when our next meeting is gonna be. My brother died last week.
Oh,
And, we're in the midst of,
Oh.
funeral preparations and.
Was it sudden or?
It was pretty sudden. I mean, he's 60, he's my younger brother, so, and he lived with my
Where?
poor mom, right here in Harwich. She's
Oh.
96. She was the one that found him.
Oh, that's
Right,
really
It's
it's
been
bad.
horrible. So I think April's kind of out for me as
Okay.
far as a meeting, because I am.
Well, you sent us an
But I will
email
send you an email and
when
we
you
will,
feel ready.
we will have something probably early May.
Mhm.
Okay, I just wanted to mention in terms of scheduling, there are commitments I have, there are certain days of the week that are like totally off.
Okay.
Okay, I'm just gonna tell you, Monday and Wednesday are definitely,
Not good days for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, because I volunteer 2 hours at the library, and there's a couple of Mondays a month that I have meetings and evenings.
Okay,
I just
okay.
can't. And
Drop
then
it
Wednesday,
down. I'm glad you could make it today.
well, I have choir practice
Yeah.
tonight, but, soon, as long as I know that it's a really, really, really long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great, and if Wednesday is the best day, I can do it.
Yeah, and we'll check in.
Okay, but you need to take care of,
Yeah. So, I didn't want to cancel this meeting because we already.
There are always things.
Yeah.
There are always things.
Okay, so I think we'll adjourn this meeting at 4:05. And think that, if you talk to Dinah, we can do a little bit of, not too much because we get yelled at for open meeting issues, but we can do a little bit by email, like if it's just a matter of like getting together some questions and things like that, we could do that by email.
Okay, let me email Dinah, see what she has to say. Dinah, it's me again. and just let you know.
Okay, good.
Okay, and if there's anything that I do that borders on violation of open meeting law, please yell at me.
Yeah, no, as long as we're not doing a lot of business over email.
But you saw what happened to the finance committee. Oh my God. Well, and I saw the video of it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, the other thing I meant to tell you, and we all have to make sure that you've done your state ethics certification. You have to do that like every 2 years, I think. So
Are you talking about the open meeting law and all that?
Yeah, you do it online.
Conflict of interest.
Yeah,
Oh, God.
you gotta do
it's
that.
so tiring.
It is. It's
know.
a pain, but you gotta.
It's almost 3 hours.
And the guy is such a.
Yeah. So anyway, if it's been more than 2 years, you have to do it again. Bring your certificate.
We don't get reminded because.
No.
Yeah, and you know what? I was on the cultural council for 3 years and I never resorted. Nobody ever caught me.
Yeah. Well,
I did it during COVID, so
Yeah.
I'm probably due early next year.
yeah. So anyway, I just put your news, so make sure that you go.
Yeah, no, I will just remind myself.
Yeah.
And there is something about it, I just totally forgot when I was on the cultural council.
You too, Charlie. Just make sure you've done that within the last 2 years. And,
Yeah, I did. You have to take a test online. You have to go through the whole procedure.
I know. It's like you wish you could just click, and just get ahead of it. But
No.
it is what it is, and
You need to take the test online and print out the certificate.
yeah.
Right.
And I need the certificates eventually, so that I have to give them to the town.
Well, I already turned one into the town.
Oh, good.
clerk's office. Yeah, when I was sworn in,
Yeah,
I brought
good,
that
good,
in,
yeah.
yeah.
So we just have to make sure that we keep up. Me too. I have to check the date on the last one that I have.
Yeah.
I don't know what I did with it. Oh, it's probably here.
Alrighty, so Charlie, we're getting ready to leave. I will email everybody some dates for the next meeting, and we can pick one. And maybe by then we will have some questions and maybe
Some more information and I can also update you on what's happening with our pond webinar.
Yes, I'd be very interested to know that.
Yeah.
I'll